Perfect.
Hello.
Perfect. Good.
Hello, Scotland.
Hello, Scotland. Good.
How are you today?
Good. Very good. You can hear us
So,
loud and
hi,
clear.
my name is Andrew, and I'm the teaching fellow for the Scotland Can-Do Scale online course. We invite those of you who have not taken the Entrepreneurship 101, Who is Your Customer course, to learn more about how to start an entrepreneurship startup in a business. And the number one thing that you need as a business is to have paying customers. So we're inviting you to join the Scale online course, Entrepreneurship 101, Who is Your Customer, to find your customers. And so without further ado, please give it up for the Aulets.
Wait, Andrew,
Yes.
tell them about 103.
Oh yeah, that's right. And so 103, show me the money, right? So we started Entrepreneurship 101, who is your customer? And Entrepreneurship 102, what can you do for them? And then debuting this December, Entrepreneurship 103, show me the money. How can you make some money off your customers? How can you provide them an awesome service? How can you build your business? So stay tuned for that December 1st. All right.
And that one will be at a whole nother level of quality.
Yeah.
Very excited about that one. Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. So, Stephen and Rory, do you have questions ready to go?
Yes.
Stephen, how are you?
I'm very healthy, Bill. How are you?
I'm living the dream here.
Great.
We're just hoping that we don't get Brexit next week by Trump.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we had two rules for this evening. I wasn't to mention Brexit, you weren't to mention Donald Trump, or the other way around, something like that. We have one of our cohort who said you were supposed to wear a tie tonight.
Hey, how do we sound, Stephen? Can you hear us? Can you see us well?
We can hear and see you perfectly. Well, it was like yours.
Okay. So we're ready for your questions. Who wants to start? Edinburgh or Aberdeen?
Yeah, so just to let you know, so we have an audience in Edinburgh, and we also have people in Aberdeen. We have a large amount of people viewing online throughout Scotland, Bill. So we've got some questions that we've received in advance, which we'll feed them through to you. But we'll also have some questions in the room, and we will invite people forward to ask those questions. I want to start with the first question from a gentleman in Aberdeen, from John McLennan, who asks, how to scale your business without increasing overheads? So I will hand that over to you, Bill.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge. You never want to increase your costs ahead of where you need to be. And so the first thing is, which I think Scottish do very well, you have to be a cheap bastard at all times. You cannot get excited about things before the money starts flowing in. And this is a cultural thing that's very, very important. The companies that fail think that they've got it, they raise money and they start spending the money before they have more money coming in. So the first thing is that just fundamental kind of economic, austerity, you're a startup. The second thing is you fake it before you make it. As you're scaling, you're trying to confirm that you have the right market product fit. And to do that, some of the things you don't fully invest in on the back end. For instance, when Jeff Bezos did Amazon, they didn't build out the whole back end. They had a website, and then people placed orders, and then they saw those orders come in, and then they would run to the store, buy the books, package them up, and send them themselves. While that was not scalable, it allowed them to eliminate risk in their business, specifically the market risk. And then you can invest in the back end once you start getting the orders. And that's when your profits will go up. So the other thing is, outsource things like legal, outsource things like finance to begin with. Your number one job is to get the product market fit right. Make sure that the dogs are eating the dog food before you start investing in the back end. I could go much longer, but I want to make sure that we get enough time for all the questions, and then we can circle back.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Does that answer the question? Who was it that asked?
That was John McLennan.
John, does that answer the question?
John is in Aberdeen, Bill, but I'm sure if you didn't, he will let you know.
Okay. If it doesn't, John, just send it in again and elaborate further.
Right, thank you. We have a question from Simon Fraser, who's asked, what are the major differences in trying to scale a business in Scotland compared to the USA?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that the people can do scale for Scotland should focus on scaling in Scotland first. It's a much more competitive market in the United States, and it's going to be harder for you. Why try to jump over a bar this high? Jump over a bar that's this high first. So in Scotland, I think it's going to be less competitive, and secondly, it's going to be a situation where you can iterate much faster because you have the home court advantage. You don't have to wait 5 hours to see what happens in the United States, and then it's so far away that you're not getting that quality feedback. Do it in Scotland. Work through all the issues before you expand geographically. When you come to the United States, you're gonna get it's going to be more competitive. You're going to be expected to scale at a level that it would be much harder to start at than in Scotland. You should work in Scotland, get all the parts of the equation working before you come to the United States. Ironically, I was just talking to someone today from London, and they're trying to come up with this called Fetch. It's an application that will allow you to buy stuff. You can buy kind of name brand stuff, and then you can ship it to someplace else in the world through travelers. Kind of think like Uber for travelers. And so they were like, well, this works everywhere. And I said, well, where are you going to work on it first? They said, everywhere. And that makes no sense. And so we narrowed it down to, these not the ones on High Street, but these fashion ones that are off High Street, going to women in Singapore, 28-year-old to 34-year-old women in Singapore. That's the kind of focus. And it's for makeup. It's not just for everything. It's very specific for that one product. And once they get this one system to work, the travelers are going to get products in London for customers who in Singapore, who are women between 28 and 34 in a certain income group. And once they bring that over there and you've got that working, then you can expand to clothing. Then you can expand to Hong Kong. But you have to get that first one working first. Okay, I don't know who that question was from, but if that didn't answer it sufficiently, please ask again.
Great, thank you, Bill. I'm going to open up a question to the individuals in Edinburgh. Would anybody who like to ask a question, first question to Bill from in the room? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sure one of you must have a question.
Well, that's what
yeah.
Yeah, if you want to speak, yeah, that's great.
Good evening, Bill.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. One of the points
Thank you for dressing up in a tie. You make me feel uncomfortable.
I'm actually a farmer, and this is how
congratulations
in farm in Scotland. However, the question that I really want to pick up on is what you just said. You see, we have a market here of, say, 3.25 million people, and often economically, in order to make, as you say, to scale up and test all the things you do, that's not enough people in order to reach a point of, say, sufficient business excellence to be able to take what you're doing further afield. So obviously we have the Scottish picture, the UK picture, European picture. At what point do we say, okay, that's enough, let's go over and see our American cousins? Is it when we've mastered the thing that we're trying to do in the UK?
Yeah. So, no, I'm sorry, what was your name?
Tan.
Ann?
Tan.
T-A-N?
Yep.
Tan. So Tan, what business are you thinking about? What business are you in?
Hello. We grow tea here, and we export it.
Okay, you grow tea and export tea. Okay.
Yes.
Grow tea and export tea. Okay. So that's interesting. What I would
A figure behind what I was saying. 4 million people in Scotland means that about 210,000 people will likely drink something like our product, and out of those, about 10,000 people are real customers. So if we're to get to a point of excellence before we go to, say, into the American market, 10,000 people isn't anywhere near big enough in order to get out there.
So but that's your laboratory, Tan. That's your laboratory where you try the entire system out to work. You're going to get your product refined. You're going to get your customer support refined. You're going to have your IT systems working, and you're going to be able to take money, from people. And you're going to, I assume you work through distributors. Do you work through distributors, or do you sell direct?
Sell direct.
You sell direct. Okay, that's good. So there's a lot of things you have to get working there in the UK market first. And I would hope that you could get to a point where you know how profitable is one customer. How much does it cost to acquire that customer? So basically, I would say you're going to go through the entire 24-step process with these 10,000 customers and get it to work and understand where the exposure is. And then once you've done that and you have your team, you have a core team, I don't know how many people you have in your team, then I would develop a new plan to attack the United States or wherever else it is. When you say there's 10,000, is that in the United Kingdom or is that just in Scotland?
That's the Scottish thing.
Scotland.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't check this morning, but does the United Kingdom still exist?
It's a source. Yep.
Jen, that's called sarcasm. Do you know that? You take it very well. So I would focus on making it work in Scotland, and you're going to have to figure out not just your logistics, your production system, but you also have to figure out your marketing plan. How do you sell this stuff? What does your website look like? What's the message you want to have? How do you position yourselves against other teas? And then I would move to potentially Wales or Ireland or England, and then see how that works, because those will be the next step up, right? And then once you've done those, then the question is, do you go to the United States or do you go to Europe someplace? And I don't know the answer to that, but you'll have to do a whole analysis, because even though the tea will be the same, your persona in the United States will be fundamentally different. And your message for them might be much different. And this is what you see when you see companies that start in Israel. They start one way, but then when they move to the United States, they have a different message. All right, so you're in the food industry. Let me give you an example of this. In the vodka industry in Russia, one of the best Russian vodkas, the best Russian vodka said, we're just going to move to the United States. The product was exactly the same, and it moved to the United States, and it bombed miserably because they didn't realize that they had to have a different message in the United States than they did in Russia. So you're going to have to think multidimensionally about, when you go to a new market. Is that helpful, Tam?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, and hopefully the United States is still around next week.
Well, on that note, Bill, we actually have a question with regards to the US. We have a question from Nicole, who was part of our 2016 program this year, and she's asked, how can we make the most of opportunities after the outcome of the US elections?
Yeah, well, just don't mention that Trump's family came from Scotland. Are you there?
Yes.
I think right now, to be honest, this whole election has everybody in a very uneasy state. And it's not, nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. But after the election, I believe there's going to be an opportunity that, as Nicole mentioned, for you to come in. Now, you have to come in with the right message. It can be somewhat, you might have somewhat creative. One of the things that went viral, was there was something I saw. Basically, let's take Tan's business. Right after the election, he could come into the United States if he was ready and say, thank goodness, America, it's time to relax with a cup of Tan's, calming tea. So you have, Nicole, a window of opportunity after the election, and how you design a trigger for that depends on your product. But the big thing right now is everybody just wants this to be over and wants to be able to relax. So, but I think you're going to see, and I'm not a pollster, I think you're going to see Clinton win, and I think you're going to see the economy start to take off a bit because of the instability being out of it. And that does represent an opportunity if your business is ready. But you don't want to rush into the U.S. market until your business is ready in the beachhead market. What business is Nicole in, if she can respond?
She can't. She's actually online, but she's in the. Nicole was from Relocate Guru. I believe she was in the relocation business.
Relocation business. Well, depends on who wins. There might be a lot of people moving.
Do you have any other questions in the room?
Yeah. In a minute, but I'm working.
You're working on your questions. I've got a list to get through, but I'm happy to take more from in the room. We have a quick, and apologies having to always go back to use the States as an example, Bill, but we have a question from Adam Gordon, again, another participant from this year's program. He says, the incumbents in my market are mostly in America and not currently taking business outside of the USA. He asks, should I try to compete in the USA or try to dominate UK and then other non-US markets to become an attractive acquisition target?
So, Adam, thank you for the question, Adam. Unequivocally, you should try to dominate the market in Scotland and then be a potential acquisition candidate or get to a point where you're cash flow positive that you can just run the business. I think this person who comes around to our center often here just recently won a Nobel Prize, which we're ecstatic about. And his name is Ben Holmstrom. And he said, innovation is overrated. Imitation needs to get a lot more credit. And by this, you see a good idea and you apply it to your market. Now, some might call that lateral innovation. What Ben says is that's imitation. And that's perfectly fine. This is how the Samner brothers in Germany have become multi-billionaires, by doing just this idea. But I would tell you that customizing and the idea that you see working in the United States for Scotland is going to take some knowledge on your part. And that's where you're really going to add value. So in answer to your question, so I try to compete in the US or try to dominate the UK and then other non-US markets to become an attractive acquisition target, I would definitely say do not compete in the US, try to dominate the UK market, and then, take it from there. Take one step at a time.
Thank you, Bill. Another question. As a UK high-growth tech company, must we make USA our secondary target when we're leaving the UK? That's a question online.
So if you're a leader in the UK, then you want to go after the US market?
Yeah, I think it may be a couple of spell. I'll move on from that one, sorry. Can we generate demand in the US without a US office address before putting sales feet on the ground?
Yeah, you can absolutely create demand. There's a lot of companies that do that, and people don't even realize, because they're online, where they're located. This happens all the time. So you can start to generate, well, I should say it depends on what you're selling. If you're selling, drugs, it's a different story. You have to go through regulation. But there's a lot of products that people buy, and people don't even know where they're located. They could be located, we have this sometimes in Scandinavia or Asia. What people want in the United States is they just want a high-quality product at a good price. And the other thing is that they want a good customer experience. They want to be able to have an enjoyable experience when they buy it, when they receive it, and when they first install it and get value. So those are the things that are more important than an address in the United States. Although it's not hard to get an address in the United States. So.
Great, thank you. Lorna, are you ready for a question? We have a question from in the room in Edinburgh.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Andrew. It's Lorna.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And thank you very much, Andrew, for all your networking you were doing for me while I was in Myanmar. It was great. So my question is...
You were in Myanmar?
Yes.
They met Miranda and Laurent.
Yes, all right. I was just in Vietnam and Thailand.
Oh, right. Well,
I was thinking of scooping across the border.
Oh, you should come over, because I met Chris as well. So, you've gone. Oh, dear. I don't know where that affects people.
I think you'll put it.
Whoa, you had the lights on there for a second.
Plug over there, just turned off.
So, can you hear me? Will I carry on even though we can't really see you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just.
So I went out to my. I'll remind you, academic families, we have a guardianship business, and I want it to be an education business, which is inclusive placement. So that's what we were going out to do, to get either B2B or B2C. And basically, when we're out there, got a lot of really good response from government bodies. So Department of International Trade supported us, British Council guys, Global Scots, everybody that we saw who wasn't directly involved in our area were saying, yes, there's huge potential. When we spoke to agents who are already in country, then they were just saying, oh no, it's a lot harder and to get to the market. So my question now is, how much do I persevere with my original focus, which was to add on the service, the placement service, or do we just focus far more on growing the guardianship? We are already cash positive, we have been, always have been. Do I focus on finding partners who will send over kids and we focus on the guardianship? And or do we continue to persevere looking for the placement even when that market is going to be a lot harder and slower than I thought? If you've got the answer, that would be really handy.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
Keep going on. Keep trying. Succeed.
Okay.
No, Andrew, if you want to comment on this. Lauren, I couldn't hear everything that you said, but it sounds to me like the agents are not enthusiastic about this. Is that correct?
Less enthusiastic, yes.
Yeah. So there's an old saying, we tell our entrepreneurs, when you're in a room, if there's a skeptic, don't waste time with them. Find the people who believe in what you're going to do and focus on them. Don't waste your time on the skeptics, because you're going to waste time. They're never going to buy into it. Focus on the people who believe, and the skeptics will be brought along later. So I know that's really simple answer, but there's a lot of wisdom in it over the years of doing that.
They
I
were
used to go in.
but they would be the fastest route to market because they would be B2B, whereas alternatively it's going to be fundamentally B2C. So that's going to be slower, more expensive, harder.
Yeah. Are there any agents or any distribution like a B2B that would help you? Because if you get B2C to work, then the B2B will sign up because they don't want their customers bypassing them, right? So you might go to the B2C if they like it, start getting those customers, and then come back to them to try to find an agent who would be interested in doing that. If one agent breaks ranks and you start making them successful, the other ones will have to join on board.
Okay, so continue to focus where we believe that there is a market, and although we've got a lot of learning from our trip, rather than saying, oh, okay, well then the next one that all the universities are looking at is South America, and so maybe we should be looking at other countries. So we should carry on with what we believe in, or treat it as market research.
Yeah, if that's what your gut's telling you, and even if the economics don't make sense at first to go B2C, the B2C may set you up for the B2B. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
the cost of customer acquisition may be too high to continue to do B2C, but it may be the club that you need to get the agents to believe that they need to work with you.
All right. Good. Thank you. I'll keep going.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, and you.
All right.
Bill, we've got a question from Sam in Aberdeen, who runs eBar, a beer dispenser. When developing an innovative and potentially expensive new product, how do we get customer feedback throughout, particularly if you cannot yet afford a fully featured demo from the outset?
So let me get this again. This is from Simon in Aberdeen, and he has a beer dispenser. Is that right?
Yeah, Sam.
And he wants to get, how do you get customer feedback, you know, without having to spend all the money?
Yeah, on a demo.
He also doesn't have a fully developed product.
I spend a lot of money and doesn't have a fully developed product. Okay. So I guess the question is, how do you get customer feedback without having to spend a lot of money, and when you don't have a fully developed product, right?
Yeah, I think the premise is that his MVP would be incredibly expensive to develop.
Yeah. So what is it? How expensive is it like a small mechanical device, or is it a whole? Is it a multi-million-dollar kind of expenditure?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry to be unhelpful.
So the question, there's a lot that need to know here. Is what is the value proposition that they're looking to get from this beer distributor, the beer dispenser? Could Simon, do you mind just texting what the value proposition? Because you need to know what's the value proposition, how much is it going to cost to do it, what are the multiple options that you have?
Okay, I'm currently texting Aberdeen, and we can come back to Aberdeen. We'll go back to that question. We have more details.
Okay, great.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've got loads of questions here, Bill, online, but I would like to spend a couple of minutes, if we can, on a specific topic, and that is, so the first topic that was pulled out from this year's program was local versus global as a beachhead market. Can you spend a few minutes just talking on that, if that's possible?
Yeah. So you would definitely prefer to start local for your beachhead market. So in your beachhead market, you're going to define a demographic, psychographic, And you would like that one to be local, just for the reasons we talked about before. It's more manageable, you can get more customer feedback, you can actually see the whites of their eyes as they're using your product. It's very hard to understand all the nonverbal feedback that you're getting, what they're saying the truth, if you're doing that over email. Even if you're doing it over video like we're doing now, it's hard for me to see exactly the response I'm getting from you. And that's incredibly important. So being closer to your market is exponentially better for you. So I would say, as you want to make a scalable business, think about the global requirements, but for your beachhead market, start locally and focus on developing the core that will then give you the advantage to go global after that. Do we have more on Simon's beer dispenser?
We do, yeah. So the beer dispenser is a small device, but for big events. And the USP is that they can dispense beer far quicker than current methods.
So it can dispense beer. So what I'm trying to beer quicker. So it's a small device that can dispense beer much quicker. So he can't build a prototype. The question always is, can you fake it before you make it? Can you fake the value proposition before you actually make it? And so did Simon tell you how much the small device would cost?
No, however, apparently there are large engineering costs.
Large engineering costs. Okay. So I guess you could fake it. If I was this person, I'd say, I would go to the customers and I'd say, what if you could serve beer twice as fast? What would that mean for you? And then you would get what they rationally say, and then I would even buy them a second keg of beer or whatever so that they could do both of them, because that's going to be cheaper than building this whole device, engineering it out, and then see how valuable it is to them to get beer to dispense twice as quickly. You have to creatively think about how do you create the same value proposition without incurring all those costs. And it's not a scalable solution. But again, you're trying to prove that the customer will pay for it. Not only will the dogs eat the dog food, the dogs will pay for the dog food, and then we'll go build the factory to produce the dog food.
And just an update there, the prototype would cost £100,000.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like something the Scottish Enterprise can help them with.
Duly noted. We'll let them know.
Great, thank you, Bill. We have a question online again from Nick Meakin, and we're going to call out your famous Lamborghini analogy that you used over the recent months and years. The question is, your beachhead market has been successful, and you now have several new sales and new market opportunities pulling you in a number of directions. Your investors want rapid growth, and you don't want to end up as CTO just yet. Thinking back to the Lamborghini dealership analogy example you've used, having got to a sustainable business and low seven-figure sales, at what stage, if ever, should you think about opening another service center to accommodate the soccer mom?
Yeah, great question, Nick, and well said. Look, this is a very common problem, and we see it with our customers here. The uneducated investor wants you just to grow very, very quickly. But if you grow too quickly and you're focused from, this is our customer, you start going like this, there will be a whole bunch of, in other words, the bell curve was very tight. But now all of a sudden you start opening this up, your cost, your quality of your product will be much, much lower. So what I would do, and what we did in our business is, we split it off and said, keep the bell curve very tight here. You focus on the Lamborghinis. We're going to set up another business over here to focus on servicing Volvos. or other cars, and we measure them independently. So the Lamborghini dealership is going to be profitable on its own, and we're going to measure Net Promoter Score, NPS, for that business. Over here, we're going to measure the service of the Volvo, and we're going to see how much cash are we burning there, when will it get to be cash flow positive, and what's the Net Promoter Score for that market. So you have to look at them as separate markets and measure them that way, and not allow yourself to just lump them together and get this very confused situation. So it's really kind of an organizational design question. But you have 7-figure sales. That is terrific. And you said, what stage should you think about opening up another service center? You're either going to sell that Lamborghini person more things, or you're going to address a new customer over here. And so before you're done with the Lamborghini one, which you'll never done, you really should get to the point where it's self-sustaining and cash flow positive. So you'll move in like in someone to go out and hunt and create the civilization, and then you're going to put farmers into that organization to take that Lamborghini dealership. Then you're going to move the pioneers, the hunters, over to this new market, not multiple new markets, one new market, and you're going to get them to focus on conquering that market, and then you'll bring farmers in for that market, and then you'll move on. And when you bring farmers in, they operate with different processes and different mentalities than the people who initially set up the business with this kind of frontiersman attitude and skill set. Hopefully that makes sense, Nick, and we can keep you as the CEO. But being CTO of a multi-million-dollar company isn't a bad thing either.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I'll say 15, 20 minutes. For those who are online, please keep your questions coming. They are coming through. I know we're receiving some. We'll try to get through the next 15 minutes. I think Rory's that you've actually got one from Aberdeen himself. Okay, we're going to be a bit cheeky, Bill, and Rory's going to ask you a question from himself.
So, I'm launching a business-to-business software as a service product in a mature market facing a lot of disruption. Given our acquisition tactics will be primarily digital, should I solely focus in the UK or start to acquire customers in the US and the UK?
So Rory, let me just understand, you have a software and services business that's become mature?
Sorry, it's a software as a services business. We're building human-powered artificial intelligence. So it's a fairly mature market. There are a lot of new entrants coming in looking to disrupt the market. Yeah.
Okay, so basically you got an AI solution with software as a service. The market in the UK is getting mature. And now you're thinking, should we expand or should we protect our base?
Well, sorry, no, the traditional web design market, which is agency-led, is incredibly mature. And we're launching a new software as a service product to disrupt that market. But there's a lot of new entrants coming into the space. We're wondering if we should tackle both the US and the UK as we start to acquire customers, or if we should focus solely in the UK initially and then later expand to the US, whereby there'll be a situation where there'll be other entrants in the US who've already gained that ground.
Yeah, I would say focus on the UK. This is a very competitive space, and you need to stake out your part of it and do a really good job for it. And then there's a good chance that you would then be acquired by somebody else. A little bit of a whole bunch of things. If you got 10,000 customers and they were spread all over the world, that's not nearly as profitable nor as interesting as if you had 10,000 customers in Scotland, because then you would be it would be much more consolidated, and you could A, do a better job, B, make more money, and C, be more attractive to somebody else. Someone who's just a little bit of every place, that's not very interesting as A, an acquisition target, and B, as a competitor, they'll eat your lunch. You really want to be, as Jack Welch said, number one or number two in any market that you're competing in.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Okay. I'm going to do a quick fire round of questions, Bill, with the last 10 minutes that we've got left. A question that we have from one of the gentlemen online, I don't have the name for, unfortunately. He's asked, is advancing the uniqueness of the technology important, or is shipping the first batch of product more important? How do you judge the viable of an MVP?
Okay, uniqueness of product or being first to ship?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's just talk about this. So there are some markets where it's first to ship, and these markets are characterized by networking effects, that the more install base I have, the more value I can bring. And then the more value I bring, the more people join. So in those markets, you want to be first to market. Think social network, with Facebook. If you're in there first, it's very hard to get displaced. However, on the other hand, if I'm doing a medical device, I don't want to come out with a minimum viable product that's not good. I need to have a great product. I don't want someone doing brain surgery on me with a minimum viable product. So quality outweighs speed to market in those markets, unquestionably. Now, the thing is that it usually is leading to the quality side. When you look at history, the first to market does not win most of the time. Look at Apple. Apple is never the first to market. But what they are is they're a very good product that when it gets to market, they can scale it and customers are generally happy. So I err on the side of don't rush to market if if it's hardware, if it's a device where reliability matters. Get it as right as you can, balancing that you have to get to market. If you're a software app and you're doing something like a social network, which is not critical systems, there's no hardware involved, well, yes, you can slap things together. That's the whole point of the lean startup movement. Yeah, just get something out there quickly. But what type of business are you? That's what really matters here when you're looking at those things.
Great, thanks. We have another question from Aberdeen.
So Hamish runs Twit, and they're launching a mobile network aimed at the student market. However, they're slightly concerned that if they solely focus on students and their marketing materials, it may alienate either final year students or more general youths. However, they're also concerned that if they market it solely at youth, it may alienate the student market.
Yeah. Well, there was once a car in the United States called a PT Cruiser. And I don't know if you have the PT Cruiser in Scotland. Have you ever had this car? And their goal was either to be the number one or the last on the list of most liked or least liked car. They didn't want to be in the middle. So from my standpoint, if they think the students are a good market, then they have to focus on the students and not worry about the other people. By the way, you often have products that are exactly the same product that are marketed different ways. So I think you have to make a decision as to which customer you're going to target and go after that customer and not worry that there are other customers that won't necessarily like it, as long as it's not illegal, because you can repackage the product later and then sell it to those people as well, target those people. So that would be my take on that one.
Thank you, Bill. Yep. We have a question from the room.
Hi, Bill. Good to see you. It's Karen from Colour Elements.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Bill, I've been building up my market for 2 years now and made assumptions that it was female market from a kind of filtered that down, having done the work at Scale 16, to women that were 35 to 45. So we built a product where the website was very much for females, but given the market research drive that I had after Scale 16, I've now discovered that men from 25 to 35 are a much easier market, and they're very receptive to colour elements. I'm now at a stage where I've spent a lot of time and all my money looking at this female market, and there is some market there, but it appears that the younger male market would be much quicker. I'm just at that stage of, what do I do, is what I'm asking you. What would your...
Well, the first rule of economics is never consider sunk costs in a decision going forward. The money you've spent behind you, you should not consider going forward. So going forward today, what would be the decision you would make? Would the decision you make, you would go after 25 to 35-year-old males?
It feels like that's, it feels like something I would like to really explore that. I would really like to see. It's a hunch just now, whereas I know that logging away with a very competitive market with females, but it feels like actually this could be a much quicker market.
Yeah. So the challenge here is, is it persevere or pivot? Right? This is a question we talk to our students. Persevere or pivot. And you can't be, you have to sit down and talk to other people than just yourself. You need good advisors. And people, you can go through the situation. Because the grass is not always greener on the other side, even though it seems like when you hit something that's hard in a startup, you say there must be an easier way someplace else. That's not the right reason to pivot. But if at this point you're getting a lot of demand from 25 to 35-year-old males, and you've developed something that your core is there, they're buying it, the market that you targeted is not buying it, the cost of customer acquisition is much higher than the LTV, then you pivot and go to this one. That's the decision, and you are emotionally trapped with the potential two things. One that the grass is on the other side of the but the other one is I don't want to give up on this one. And that's the balance.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Good to see you.
We kind of broke up there towards the end, so we might capture that question for you and forward that on. Just to kind of move on to one last question. We have a question from Steve Tigar from again from this year's program. Bill, you might remember Steve from moneydashboard.com. Steve has asked, we've recently had an unsolicited approach from a potential acquirer. We've started the conversation at an eye-watering multiple of revenue. However, the real value sits in collaboration post-acquisition. They bring millions of customers and routes to data revenues. How can we capture some of the post-transaction value for investors?
Yeah. So good to hear. Good to hear you. So first of all, when you get an unsolicited, it's incredibly important to sit down and have a rational discussion. I don't know if I tell this. I do this. I was so blinded by my passion about our business that when we got this offer, I didn't even sit down to speak. And what you need to do, sit down to them, and try to find out without disclosing your secrets. And if it doesn't work, why you create your business? You have to find out what do they like about it. What do they like about your business? How are they valuing? How much will they pay for? How do they handle this? Additional value that create afterwards. Did they approach you in an unsolicited manner? That's very encouraging. But it's not. But we can't say fact. We can't say a fact. That's a great thing. But so the way that I would think about it is, having been on both sides of the table here, is that you want to try to find your company is combined with this other company. And as you said, you can use their distribution channel to create more value. And then the deal is structured in a way that you say, we're getting this much up front, and then we're going to make this much based on the additional value that we would create later. This is what's called an earn-out. And you would structure that so that it would work for both sides. Because if you add value, you want to get a piece of that. And they can handle that much easier than if you force them to take that before you've proven it. And this is what's frequently done in the United States. If they want to acquire your company, they'll give you X amount of money up front, and then there's this amount of money based on hitting certain milestones over the next 1, 2, 3 years. This is a concept of what's called an earn-out. And that's very exciting, Steve. But always be open to rational business discussions. Don't tell them your inner secrets, but find out, get them to put all their cards down on the table and take a look at them.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. I think any other questions left in the room? We can close. No? Okay. Well, on behalf of Bill and Scotland, I'd like to thank you for your time. I know we had a great summer school again this year, and we'll be moving forwards towards next year. For those who are online and also in Aberdeen, if you're looking for any updates with regards to the programme, you can see that on the Scale webpage and also on social media, #Scale. So Bill, thank you very much.
And thank you, Steve. And we look forward to seeing you again this summer. And in March, we're going to have this new book coming out. And in December, we're going to have this new online class coming out. And hopefully, you will see a lot more. And I really appreciate the Ask Me Anything. I think it might even be easier next time, Steve, if we just did it kind of online with typing.
Yeah. Great.
Then people could sit in front of their computers and see all the answers. And it's easy. It's easy that way.
No, we'll absolutely do that again. Colleague Noam as well.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And hope we don't vote for Trump.
Live on YouTube.
Live on YouTube.
All right. See you guys later.
Thank you very much. Apologies for the signal loss of the technology. As I mentioned there, Scale. So for those of you who were involved in the program last year, we went again, Scale did a summer school again this year for 4 days with Bill coming over and with Professor Wasserman from Harvard. For the next 2 years, Scale will be going again. We'll be doing another program with another 60 entrepreneurs from Scotland that will grow the business. There'll be more announcements about that in the coming months. But again, that the next 2 years, Scale summer, so it's a very exciting time for the program. And thank you for coming along. Video, I believe, Rory, you can watch back.
Yes, you can. Yep.
You can watch video back. What I would say is I'll capture some of the questions they asked.